Welcome to what's the name of the show? Democracy 2.0 with Wayne Bouchard. And I'm Malcolm Berman, your co-host. And you're listening to us or seeing us on malcolmpresents.com, streaming portal into the world of Zoomcasting. An exciting new I don't know what it's not broadcasting, it's streaming, but I don't know what the streaming is its own media now. Anyway, hey Wayne, how's it going?
Uh, so far so good. As I said to you earlier, watching the snow fly. We're getting a little snow shower this afternoon, maybe 2, 3 inches. We had a couple inches the other day.
Well, you're living in the boondocks of New Jersey, right?
Frozen, yeah, the frozen tundra.
The frozen tundra.
Yeah,
I mean, to me,
not
that's
as not as frozen as perhaps Minnesota or places like that, but
well, to me, that's like the outback.
right,
It's way in the country,
different planet.
different planet. I was raised in Brooklyn, lived in Manhattan, and moved to Los Angeles.
Well,
I'm used to a lot of people, not so much land, a lot of people.
yeah. Well, the difference between Brooklyn and LA is significant. So, but still a lot of people, but in one place they're all congested into a small area, and the other place they're all spread out over, thousands of acres.
Yeah. Well, that's someone asked me after I moved here a few years from Manhattan. They said, "Well, what's the difference between living in New York and living in Los Angeles?" He said, "Don't you miss all the activities that New York has?" I said, "Well, not really, because in Los Angeles, in Southern California, you take San Diego, go up to Santa Barbara, and squeeze it into an island. You have Manhattan."
Yeah, but you can't do. I remember when I was living out in LA and accustomed to doing things in New York, and one night we picked up a bunch of people in a limousine and we went to dinner, and then we got back in the limousine and went to a play, and we were late, of course. um, because the distances are just too far apart. In New York, you would just take the limousine into the restaurant and walk from the restaurant to the theater. You'd pick
Right.
out a restaurant right near the theater, but
Oh yeah,
LA, you didn't have that same advantage.
yeah. The thing that I never got used to is in New York. I'd go out. In my single days, I'd go out. I'd go to a bar, have a few drinks, go to the next bar, have a few drinks, and take a cab home. In Los Angeles, you're in your car.
Mm-hmm.
So, the next bar is at least, a 20 minute, half hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you had 3, 4 drinks, then you had to go home driving.
Mm-hmm.
Never got used to that.
A lot of driving.
A lot of driving, a lot of accidents, a lot of DWI tickets.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, that's an introduction to our show. What did you want to talk about this week, sir?
Well, I thought we could start off by talking about the state of the economy, the new inflation report. The Fed raised interest rates again. Mortgage rates are down. People are talking about recession versus soft landing. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm completely. I have to say, I mean, I'm not an economist. I get totally confused. I mean, again, we're talking about they make interest rates higher, so it's harder to pay your bills. And if you're not buying big ticket items, but buying basics, and with the health insurance costs, with the rent costs, most of the time you're using a credit card for a lot. And now the interest rates are going up, so you have to pay more. So I'm not sure how that's good for the economy.
Well, I am not an economist either, but I know that in order to slow down inflation, our economic policy has always been to increase interest rates. so that it's not only there's not only a lack or a shortage of easy money for the consumer, but there's a shortage of easy money for the corporations. So corporations slow down their efforts of expansion, consumers slow down their purchases, and so gradually we slow down the rate of inflation.
Well,
We haven't had inflation like this since the 70s. And the difference between now and the 70s is that and I think you might be old enough to have remembered what happened in the 70s and this was in the mid to late 70s. We were not we didn't have control of our own destiny in terms of oil, because we weren't pumping oil out of the ground. So we were relying on, the Middle East oil, at that time, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and those countries. And they jacked the price of oil way up. We also didn't, today we don't have that worry because, we have it somewhat with the Ukrainian war, but we're producing our own oil here in this country, and they've increased production of oil. Gas prices have gone way down. I saw gas today at $2.15 a gallon.
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, that's or $3.15.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me. $2.15 a gallon. We would be, we'd be pumping gasoline into storage tanks.
Yeah, I was saying, wishful thinking on your part.
Yeah. So, but $3.15 is still cheap compared to $4 and $4 plus.
Well, in Los Angeles, it was like 6+.
Right. Every state is different due to state taxes. There are highway trust funds that usually operate off the state tax, the state gasoline tax. And that's what makes the price of gasoline different in California than, say, in New Jersey. New Jersey used to have the cheapest gas in the country, but we had horrible roads. We had potholes and we hadn't done any kind of expansion programs in terms of our highways. So they increased the gas tax to put us up at an equal level with most of the country. But California has always had higher gas prices.
Yeah, well, that's because I think they have a different mixture of gas to make it less pollutant. Because this was even before I came out. Supposedly, you couldn't live in Los Angeles because the pollution was so bad. And now the pollution isn't that bad. Or we call it smog.
Right. I remember when I lived out there. We used to kid around by saying, it's always nice to see the color of the air that you're breathing.
Right. Yeah,
and it changes colors on a daily basis.
But as far as roads are concerned, I remember again when I first moved out here, everybody said, "How can you drive in New York? There's so many potholes. The roads aren't paved." Now it's the same thing in Los Angeles. I live in the Valley, and one of the main thoroughfares is Ventura Boulevard. You drive 2 miles on Ventura Boulevard, you have to have your wheels balanced.
Right.
There's so many damn potholes.
The difficulty here is not only routine wear and tear. It's when they start. We have snow when they start plowing the roads and salting the roads and putting on all kinds of chemicals, and that creates huge problems on our highways.
Well, I think part of the problems with highways and the taxes that we use to fix and everything is one word: corruption. A lot of that money is wasted. A lot of that money is given to people who aren't qualified, but they have the political connections to get the contracts.
We've all seen highway projects where there's 20 guys standing around, 3 guys working, 6 of them leaning on their shovels, and that kind of thing. But that's a strong union that has inflated the number of jobs required on a lot of these, especially on state projects, not necessarily private contractors.
or federal projects.
Right.
But anyway, what else is happening in the world?
So the mortgage rates went down. We're talking about, are we going to have a recession, or are we going to have a soft landing? And I don't know if you had an opportunity to see Janet Yelling on 60 Minutes
No.
on Sunday. She talked about the recession versus a soft landing.
What is a soft landing?
A soft landing would be where things wouldn't be very disruptive. A lot of people wouldn't lose their jobs. We would just bring interest, we'd start to bring interest rates down again. The economy would pick up. We'd start hiring people. Wages would go up. That would be kind of a soft landing. So the recession is, is categorized. You categorize the recession if you have 2 quarters of less than positive growth. So if you had, 0.2% growth in the GDP, that would be a soft landing.
But wouldn't raising interest rates be a negative for the economy?
They raise the interest rates to a point, and then they start backing them off. That's how you get your soft landing.
So when are we backing them off? I know that they just raised it, 0.05%?
Yes, but that was 0.25% less than the previous hike, the 2 months before. So maybe if, the inflation news continues to be positive, the Fed will back the next rate hike down to 0.25%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But and aside from the gas, which is controversial, whether we should cut back on gas production or not, because of the negative effect that the carbon footprint does to the economy or not, that's a yin and yang question. To me, there's no right answer. But as far as the inflation, as far as the cost of food and produce, we have absolutely no control of that. I mean, a lot of it is because of the war of Russia and Ukraine, and they produce a lot of I forgot how much percent of the grain in the world. A huge
Ukraine
amount.
is heavy on the grain supply.
Yeah,
and, that's been part of the problem. That's what caused the recession. The supply of oil and the supply of grain for food. These are supply chain problems, and
right.
You and I and the average American never talked about supply chain issues. And all of a sudden it became the most common form of discussions that we would have about, the economy. It was all due to supply chains. And, to the president's credit, he went out and talked to the shippers and the truckers, and they got stuff moving again. They got a lot of cargo ships coming into the ports, and the trucking companies moved it all out across the country, and we cleaned up a lot of supply chain issues.
Yeah, to me, the amazing thing was that there were all these ships out in the harbor not being able to dock, not being able to get rid of their the loads. And
a lot of that was due to COVID. They didn't have the workers.
Yeah, so a lot of things were beyond anybody's control, so to speak.
Right.
Much less President Biden.
Biden would get blamed for whatever is negative. Is anybody going to give him credit if it goes well?
Well, yeah, it depends on what station you're listening to.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's amazing. No matter what he does, you tune into Fox, Hannity, or Tucker Carlson.
Hmm.
Uh, he's the worst president in the world, and they're so negative, and they're making fun. They're sort of like making him a joke. And I'm saying, again, maybe I'm just getting old, but you would never have seen that on national news in the 70s.
You would never have seen that from, ABC, CBS, or NBC. Just wasn't done.
Yeah. And it's well, mainly it's still not. Well, actually, it is. But the thing is, which I'm almost negative on all news because again, we discussed about that. It's not news anymore; it's opinion. It's as
It's
soon as the
opinion and it's sensationalism.
yeah, as soon as the who's ever giving the news, reads it, you know what they're going to say. It's the first sentence. Uh, it tells you of how they feel.
Well, it all goes down, it all comes back to one issue, and that is that all these companies, whether they're network television or whether they're streaming services, they have to make a profit. And the only way to make a profit is they need, eyeballs on their channels.
Sensationalism.
So sensationalism sells, man. You don't care about, the farmer out in Iowa having a record bumper crop of corn. You could care less. You want to hear about, all the problems with the grain over in the Ukraine due to the war, because, you can see things getting blown up and missiles flying and soldiers crawling on the ground. People like that stuff.
But it's interesting also that if you want to find out international news, you either have to read the newspaper, with some of the New York Times has the international news. The LA Times, maybe some of the articles. But as far as on television, you don't see anything on internet, aside from maybe the war.
I think probably the most, the most equal and the best news that you can get that's going to give you a worldwide opinion of what's going on is the BBC.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
still the best. And if you listen to NPR, they usually have the BBC news on first.
Yeah, I listen to BBC. But otherwise, you don't have any. You don't have unless it's a revolt, unless it's an uprising. But you have like 2-3 minutes of it, and you don't know anything that's happening as far as is there fires but half of the world is in crisis, either weather-wise, tornado-wise, hurricane-wise, fire-wise, water-wise, and we don't know anything about it.
Right. I've noticed as of late, and I don't know whether this is a new strategy and I just never noticed it, or I just never noticed it before, but on CNN, they have 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. And they focus on different things. The Wolf Blitzer comes on at 6 o'clock, and he may be all about I'll give you an example. Last night it would have been all, and I don't know if this is true or not, but last night it would have been all about the 10-year anniversary of Sandy Hook. And that would cover the first 20 minutes or so, and then they would fill in with other news. And then at 7 o'clock, Aaron Burnett was Ukrainian war. Half an hour on the Ukrainian war. And then Anderson Cooper comes on at 8 o'clock and he covers something else. He focuses on something else that's important. And I can't remember what it was that he was doing last night. because I didn't watch it. I usually watch 7 o'clock.
Yeah, well, I think CNN is doing very poorly. They're going on through a whole reconstruction.
Yeah. Yes.
Again, I know MSNBC stays much close politically in what's happening.
Right. They're more political.
Yeah.
CNN is trying to get back to being more news oriented.
And Fox, forget about it.
Fox is just sensationalism.
Yeah.
I think you can really see this whole thing about sensationalism if you watch the Weather Channel. I mean, they sensationalize the weather. If there's a tornado, man, they are in high gear. They just
tornadoes, hurricanes,
yeah.
fires.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that sells.
Well, I forget when it was, but the networks weren't always that way. The news department was a lost leader. It never was. They never were. During the days of Walter Cronkite, I believe they were never meant to make money.
Right.
They
are
were
today.
An audience in, and
well, let's shift gears.
Go
and talk about this big news of the week for all the eggheads on the planet and the science people. This fusion reaction that they conducted, and it was for the first time, it was a success. They created more power than they used for the reaction.
Now, are you conversant? Do you know exactly what it is and the difference between that and nuclear splitting and what we do now?
What we do now is we split atoms, which is like the same thing we do when we create a nuclear weapon. So we have a lot of inherent problems with that. One is the heat; they have to cool it. So they have to have a lot of water to cool it, and they have to make sure that they always have water, because if they don't, then you have that meltdown syndrome.
And I know a big problem is nuclear waste and what to do with it.
And the waste, it's there forever, and they don't know what to do with it. Still haven't figured out. Fusion is when they fuse two atoms together. Simply put,
it's like a tuna melt. You put the cheese and the tuna together.
I can't wait to say that to some of my scientific friends. It's like a tuna melt. So they fired 192 lasers through a hole the size of a pin. Now, first of all, how the hell do you do that? 192 lasers through the hole of the size of a pin, and they created this nuclear reaction inside this capsule that was the size of a pencil eraser, and it created more energy than it used. And the way that I read, that I just love this analogy, is that it created enough energy for the entire electrical grid in the United States for 1/billionth of a second.
Wow.
But in total energy, what it created was enough energy to boil a couple of pots of water. You have to have the instantaneous energy and then the prolonged energy.
Yeah, it's again, I don't know whether I'm getting older or what, but I don't understand the whole processes, and it's mind-boggling what they can do. Or sending a rocket to the moon. It's sort of
what I love is the whole concept of quantum physics or quantum mechanics, and that nothing really is permanent. Nothing is what you visualize it as. And I loved a friend of mine explaining it to me this way one day, and let's see if I can do this.
Yeah.
And he said, is this canister, is it here or is it over here? And it's in the process of going from here over to there. And you're just seeing it as stationary.
Well, but everything changes. It's sort of like if you look things from you close one eye and take a look at things, then you close the other eye. It's a whole different perspective.
I love the concept of parallel universes.
Well, that I'm not so much into, but what I like is the fact that, which I don't, that nothing is really solid. That everything
Right.
is, it's molecules that are constantly moving.
They're moving. They're constantly moving.
And to me, it doesn't make, you're solid. But it's like beam me up, Scotty, where you could dissolve the molecules over here and transport it to another place.
The transporter.
Yeah. Beam me up.
The entire concept of the transporter was thought up because the budget that the original Star Trek television show had was so minimal that they didn't have enough money to come up with alternate spacecrafts to go from here to there and back again, like these shuttles that they have now all the time. So they came up with this. One of the writers came up with this concept that we'll just beam them there, with this transporter. We'll take all the molecules and we'll send the molecules through through space, and then we'll reassemble them, over here on Mars.
Yeah, I can picture when we started experimenting like that, where I can see them taking the molecules apart, but I have a little leery about them putting it together in the right order.
Yeah, your head might come out your butt.
Right. Well, that I can see, because a lot of people that hear speaking that their head does come out of their butt.
But they have in the lab actually transported, small molecular structures from point A to point B.
Oh, have they?
Yeah,
They
they have
haven't.
done it, which is
That would-
fascinating to me that can be done. I love that stuff. Science fiction.
I know conceptually it can be done, but I don't know if it again. I haven't heard that it has been done.
No, it has been done.
But anyway, getting back to nuclear fission, I understand that will take at least a decade or 2 decades to develop. It's not available now. It won't be available, in the near future.
That is probably true, but one of the other things that it can be used for is analyzing nuclear weapons and nuclear explosions. And that is so critical to the Pentagon and our defense systems, that there's a school of thought that says, hey, we'll spend a hell of a lot of money to get there faster now that we know it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to take a lot of great scientific minds, a lot of engineering talent, and that's one of the things that our schools are not doing well in.
Well, speaking about that, did you hear there's one county in Missouri that wants to I think next term is only going to have a 4-day school week?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's 4 days because there's a shortage of teachers.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not doing too well with 5 days. I can imagine what the standard of education will be with only 4 days.
I don't know. I'm very concerned about the education system and our kids. Our kids are not interested in science. They're not interested in math. Their interests lie in
Well,
I'm not sure.
well, I don't know if it's for us to judge because what's happening with all the kids are onto their cell phones and to virtual reality. I don't know whether that will be their world, whether in fact whether there will be a world when they're whether they will ever live to be our age.
I think their brains are going to turn to mush. I
No,
have
no.
noticed that there's a bunch of parents that are suing some of these tech companies uh, because of their kids, and specifically, what's that company's name that owns Facebook now?
Meta? No.
Meta. And it's over Instagram. And there are ads for parental controls for Instagram everywhere, everywhere.
Well, I had about
And I think
Instagram.
it's Meta trying to prove that, hey, we're trying to fix this.
I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Twitter, or so do a lot of other people.
I think Elon Musk is going to probably destroy it.
Especially, well, or he might destroy us, because of so many. If he has the Q&A people on there without, anyone monitoring what they say, because again, if you say something long enough, people believe it.
Yes.
There was an old sales thing. I remember going to a sales seminar saying, if you don't believe if you don't know the facts, say it louder. Because people
Right.
believe you if you feel that that you really know what you're talking about. You don't have to know about it. You just have to shout it out. And I know it, but I also know that our half hour is up.
Well, we used to use a saying in industry, in business, that was similar to that. And it was, if you can't baffle them with your brilliance, then baffle them with your BS.
Yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
half of the world is BS, or more than half. But again, we are up with time, and up with time? No, our
We're
allotted
out
time.
of time.
Yeah, our allotted time is over. But again, I wanted to wish you, because I know you and Meg celebrate Hanukkah. That's on Sunday night.
Yes.
The 8 days, you light your menorah.
Uh-huh.
Because I know before you were you're a Christian, your forebears were all Jewish, otherwise they were pagans, not even believing the deity. But anyway, and I'll see you next week or before Christmas. Get the tree decorated. My tree is all decorated already.
Really? I haven't even gotten mine yet.
Oh no,
Well, Malcolm, you have a wonderful holiday season for
okay,
Hanukkah.
you too, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.
Ta-ta.
Bye now.